scary, so I decided not to go across the 14th Street Bridge. I came around and I'm wound up here, stopped in the traffic right at the Pentagon. I was trying to get back over to Memorial Bridge, but no
Had you
luck.
known about the World Trade Center
Oh,
attack?
yeah, I was listening to WTOP radio the whole time, and then this thing came right over my head, and it plowed. It was clearly a similar situation to what happened in New York.
There are injured people here. We can't tell you how many. We've certainly seen Arlington fire and rescue crews, the paramedics working on somebody in front of us. We have not heard the number of people injured. This attack, as you can see, did not seem to really penetrate the building a great distance, even though there is a great amount of fire on this side of the Pentagon, which I believe is, as you can compare it to the World Trade Center, I think the Pentagon has always been called the largest office building in the world, so there certainly is a comparison there, besides its obviously strategic implications. Arlington Fire here called in extra equipment. They've called in the National Airport Foam Unit, which
Dave,
just yes, go ahead.
Dave, Dave,
yes.
We just want to break in because we want to go back to New York, where Dan Rather is anchoring our coverage, where one of the towers at the World Trade Center has collapsed. Let's go back to CBS.
There are no confirmed fatalities. Now, in Washington, the Pentagon has had a fire and explosions, much speculation of what would have caused the fires and explosions at the Pentagon in Washington, but very few facts. David Martin, our Pentagon correspondent, says that he has seen, I believe it said 5 injured people at the Pentagon. One eyewitness, and only one so far, is quoted as saying he thinks, I put that in quotation marks, he thinks a plane crashed into the Pentagon. But there'll be rumors all day, and we're going to try to separate the rumors from the facts. Now, you're looking at a live picture of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. In flames, with much smoke. In the last few minutes, there have been 2 reports, but not yet officially confirmed, that a portion of at least one of the towers has collapsed. But I caution that that's an unconfirmed report, although it comes from 2 sources, and it's unclear whether that collapse is about the interior of the building or some portion of the exterior of the building. I want to emphasize again, not to be redundant, but this is a day in which rumors are going to spread like mildew in damp basements. And there'll be reports. Some of them will be officially confirmed, some not. That's the environment in which we're dealing. Now, President Bush was in Florida this morning. He called this an apparent act of terrorism and rushed back to Washington. The president is in the air going back to Washington at the moment. Now, in Washington, the reports spread that a plane also crashed at the Pentagon. See, as David Martin says, there are at least several injuries. Several is the word he used. The FAA has banned all aircraft takeoffs nationwide. Here in New York, the city is on a full terrorist alert. Bridges and tunnels are closed. You recall the World Trade Center was the target of a terrorist bombing in 1993. Now, again, it's important to point out that with television, what we can show you is what is at the end of the television camera. The whole city is not in smoke and flames, not by a long shot. The city is on a terrorist alert. Entry into the city has been closed off. Tunnels and bridges are closed off as a precautionary measure. But, you know, in many, many areas of New York City, life goes on this morning, and the same is true in Washington, D.C. So just keep in mind that when you see this picture constantly, it's of one section of New York City, and we go to Washington for the picture there, the Pentagon, the same thing. These pictures...
All right, this is Mike Buchanan along with Andrea Roan. We're here in Washington. We're going to keep you updated on this situation. We've also got an What you got, Chris?
We've got Chris.
The Beltway at 395 at the Pentagon has been shut down.
The Beltway at 395 near the Pentagon has been shut down, obviously because of what you're seeing right here on the screen. A plane hitting the west side of the building, a gaping hole there, and near the heliport. This after 2 planes struck the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. Reports of a portion of the second tower that was hit at the World Trade Center appears to have collapsed. What you are looking at right now, though, is here, the Pentagon. Let's recap, Mike.
All right, what are we going to figure? Hold on, here's a...
These are raw footage coming back. That's our reporter there on the scene who will be giving us stories in just a few minutes. But people who have been evacuated from the Pentagon building after that building, the west side of the building, was struck by a plane not long after the twin attacks in New York City on the World Trade Center. An Associated Press reporter says he saw the tail end of a large airliner plunge into the Pentagon building. What we know, New York City is on a terrorist alert, and here in Washington, the White House, all of the White House, the old Executive Office building, Blair Mansion, other major government institutions, including Treasury and the State Department, have also been evacuated amid credible terrorist threats.
All right, Dave, go ahead, take it.
Thank you. We've got some eyewitnesses as you... Mike, why don't you stay on, show the pictures over here, and I'll talk to the eyewitnesses. You can look at what's going on, the firefighting efforts. We had a couple people who were in the Pentagon at the time. Tell me what happened.
We were sitting at our desks having a meeting, and there was a large shutter, or there was a shutter of the building, and the sound of a large thud.
Right, you could hear the impact, and there was a large concussion, like an explosion would do. The air would be a concussion.
But we didn't know there was an explosion. It was clear. We looked at each other and knew that something catastrophic had happened, but we had no idea what it was. People began evacuating immediately and went outside. And it wasn't until we were outside we realized what had happened.
How far away from you in the building were you when it happened?
Well, if you divide the building into fifths, 5 pie slices, which is the way the Pentagon renovation is scheduled, this is in the first wedge, the new wedge that just was finished, and we were in the next one over.
Did you see any injured other than the ones who were out here that we saw?
I didn't see any injuries.
Did you see what size of plane it was when you got outside?
No, but walking up here now along the road, there are pieces of aircraft spread all the way up the road, at least a third of a mile from the impact site.
What goes on? Can you tell us what would be in those offices, generally speaking? I know you can't go into great detail.
Well, we're looking at the E-ring of the Pentagon, and that's where the more senior officials are. That area, I believe, is where the Army Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations and the Army Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel's offices are.
We're looking here also, I believe, I don't have a monitor, but I believe you're looking at one of the injured being taken away by Arlington Fire and Rescue. They've been on the scene since a few minutes after this happened. And I mentioned before, but the firefighters and police officers on the scene here have all been warned, keep a close look at the skies, watching for a possible second attack as what happened in New York. Mike and Andrea?
All right, we're going to go to Rick Armstrong. He's one of our photojournalists. He's down on the mall. Rick?
Hi, Buck.
What you got?
Not a whole lot other than the fact that the city is shut down. I'm at the base of the Washington Monument. Park police officer a few minutes ago told me they've shut down all the monuments. They're evacuating all the buildings, including the White House. I can look across the river at the Pentagon, and it's an incredible smoke plume.
Bet you everybody.
Emergency vehicles going in every direction. Look like Secret Service vehicles, fire vehicles, police vehicles. 25 years here, I've never seen anything like this.
What's the reaction of the people there, mostly tourists, I'm sure, and some working in the area?
To be honest with you, I've talked to a lot of tourists, and they're just, what do you expect? They're all shocked. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I know.
It's hideous.
I know. Yeah. I can imagine what it's like down there. We're sitting here. Every plane we keep an eye on. I imagine everybody throughout the city.
Looking
you see
up
a
at the
plane.
sky.
Yes.
I've had no luck making any communication except for I'm on a payphone. The cell phones are down. The displays are down.
Right.
I don't know why.
I think we know why.
We decided to come to this location. I'm with Frank Herzog. We were on a sports story. We decided to come to this location because this is a very likely spot for an act of terrorism. Sad it is to say that, but and so we're just kind of keeping our eyes and ears open here.
All right, Rick, thank you very much. Yep. Let's go to Lauren Ashburn now, USA Today. She's Lauren.
Frank.
No,
this is
Andrea and Buck.
Hi, Andrea. Hi, Buck. I am on the 22nd floor of the USA Today Tower 1 building, overlooking this immense plume of smoke. The E-ring of the Pentagon. You can't even see it from this distance. There is a helicopter hovering over the site, taking pictures and taking a look at what's happening inside. I'm looking down on traffic, which is completely gridlocked on Route 50 heading out of the city. Heading into the city on Route 395, You can see traffic is moving along quite quickly, and we have heard several fire trucks and EMS trucks pass us by here. I'm looking down right on the ground right now on the ramp that would take you to Route 110. They have blocked that off. There's a police officer standing right in the middle of the street right now.
Thank you very much. I just...
Let's go back to Dave, who is at the Pentagon site. Dave?
Hey, I just heard another explosion of some sort. Now, it could be a secondary explosion here from something happening. But we just heard a loud pop just as you were coming to me. It seemed to be on the east of here. I can't tell what it is. It might be something that's secondary to this because we had a number of small explosions after the fire occurred.
Dave, we understood there was construction. The area that was struck by the plane and what's on fire, was that the area under construction, so maybe there weren't a lot of people in that area?
There is, yeah, there's toward the south end of this area, there are construction trailers, I can say that. But I can't tell you for sure if this area would be sparsely populated. We're actually being asked to move back by Virginia State Police a little bit. We're going to try to keep this location as much as possible. The reason they asked us to move back is because, of course, they're concerned about any secondary explosions. I can tell you from my experience as a firefighter, there's still a great deal of fire inside the Pentagon by the smoke that's coming out of there. I'm sure firefighters are inside making sure first that they can get everybody out that they can and then trying to attack the fire inside. They've also had fire, of course, on the outside that probably involved some sort of airplane fuel. That's why it burned so it's still burning, in fact, on the south end, on the outside, near those construction trailers. Again, I can't tell you much more other than a loud pop just a few minutes ago that seemed a little bit different than the ones we heard earlier, which were on the outside here that could have been tires or something else. We're just watching also as they're taking another man to the hospital. It looks like it's going to be a medevac, and what I can tell, it looks like he's burned. There seems to be a burn sheet on top of him. Medics are taking him to the U.S. Park Police Eagle helicopter. I think we'll try to get a shot of that. We're going to show you over here on Washington Boulevard. The Eagle helicopter from Park Police is landing, taking this man to the hospital. From my vantage point, it looks like he has burns. We also, besides Arlington Fire and Rescue, see some doctors, what appear to be doctors on the scene. Not sure if they're military or not, who seem to be helping with the injured. As you can see, Virginia State Police are, again, trying to move us back, but I think we've been able to stall them off for the moment. Again, this is the E-ring of the Pentagon. Hold on one second, Mike and Andrea. In fact, we're seeing a second man who clearly is burned being sent to that medevac helicopter.
Right behind that truck. Right there.
As you can see, they're rushing him down here. This is a second person we have confirmed has what appears to be very serious burns.
Yes, we can see his hands being burned.
Can you take it back for a second? We need to coordinate something here. I'll be right back with you.
All right. We're just getting across the wire, too. Again, what preceded the Pentagon plane crash was the horrific destruction of the two planes crashing into the World Trade Center, which you see in our picture on the right-hand side of your screen. A witness said he saw bodies falling from the 110-story towers and people jumping out. There are no confirmed casualties or injuries, but looking at this.
This is tape.
This is tape from earlier this morning.
When the jet plowed in. Now we're getting word one of the World Trade Center towers in New York City has collapsed. It's collapsed, the structural damage from the two planes plowing in.
Also to let you know, because of what has happened, the Federal Aviation Administration has shut down all airplane traffic nationwide, nothing coming in, nothing going out. BWI will allow planes to land that were in the traffic pattern for landing, but I think after that, everything will be shut down. We're in a lockdown is basically what it is. All government buildings, major government buildings, have been evacuated. We heard from our crews on the scene that the Pentagon has been evacuated. Monuments and museums have been evacuated. Let's go to Frank Herzog, who is near one of the most visible monuments in the city, the Washington Monument. Frank, what do you see? What do you hear?
I'm on the west grounds of the Washington Monument. The area has been completely evacuated by Park Police, and I think I could answer Dave Statter's question about that secondary explosion.
Yes.
It wasn't an explosion. That was the sonic boom of jet fighters that were scrambled out of Andrews Air Force Base, we believe. They just circled the Washington area, flying from the east out to the west, and they were in a hurry, and they were high up in the air. So jet fighters, at least one, possibly two, were scrambled, probably as a precautionary measure. Needless to say, downtown Washington, D.C., except for the vehicular traffic, which is bumper to bumper, The rest of the city has been shut down. It looks like a Sunday morning here. The mall is absolutely empty. Park Police came through about 10 minutes ago, evacuated the entire area, and told tourists to go somewhere else. But I can tell you right now that at least one, if not two, jet fighters have been scrambled. They are patrolling the skies over Washington.
Frank Herzog, thank you very much. Let me just read you the lead. The Associated Press lead just came out of New York. First of all, let's check in with Dave Staddard at the Pentagon. Dave?
It collapsed right now. As you can see, I assume you're taking our picture. I do not have a monitor, but right now we just had a middle section here of the E-ring of the Pentagon collapse from the amount of fire and destruction from this. So obviously there was a great deal of damage here. It just collapsed. We don't know who is inside or how many people are inside. You heard somebody, one of the people who was inside the building, talk to us a short time ago and said this E-ring of the Pentagon has a great many senior officials. So if somebody was planning something, this might have been the place if they wanted to get senior officials. Again, most of the fire on the outside of the building has been extinguished. There's still some spot fires on the outside of the building, and still, from what I can see, a great deal of fire inside. So now you have a gaping hole on the west side of the Pentagon here at Washington Boulevard, and this collapse just happened. It was not an explosion, a secondary explosion. This apparently the damage from the great deal of fire and the structural damage from the plane crash.
Any word yet, Dave, on casualties?
Other than seeing the two people we saw medevac who had serious burns, I can't confirm any others. They've been working on people, but we don't know what's inside that building, to be honest with you.
So
certainly anybody in those windows or in those offices by those windows, you have to be very, very concerned about right now.
All right, Dave Staddard, reporting from the Pentagon here. You can see from Dave's camera shot several people being escorted out of the Pentagon. The Pentagon is being evacuated, as is the White House, the U.S. Capitol.
Most monuments, museums, the city basically, as you've heard from Frank Herzog and from photojournalist Rick Armstrong near the Washington Monument, closed down. Almost everything is closed down.
As you can see, a portion of the Pentagon has collapsed. This happened after a jet apparently deliberately plowed into the Pentagon.
We have Daniel McAdams on the phone. He is an eyewitness. Daniel, good morning. What did you see and where are you?
I'm here in Arlington, just off of Columbia Pike, probably about 2.5 miles from the Pentagon. And we were sitting in our living room having coffee, and it sounded like a military jet flyover that they do sometimes, you know, a very, very low altitude flyover. And then just a couple of seconds later, we heard a massive boom. All of our doors and windows shook. We went outside, looked out the window, and then saw a plume of smoke.
All right, Daniel, thank you very much. Let's go back to Dave Staddard. Dave, what do you have?
I know, hey, they're evacuating us now. They believe another plane. This could be a rumor, but they're evacuating everybody. Possibility of another plane coming in this direction. Certainly, but this is a major evacuation at the moment. Again, it could all be a rumor, but FBI is evacuating everybody out of this area. I've got to go at the moment because they will not let me stay here.
Be safe, be safe. When we heard from Frank Herzog that boom that Dave thought he heard before was Air Force jets scrambling high up in the sky on alert. If there is something else coming in, we hope they get it first. We are looking again at the Pentagon where an aircraft crashed into the Pentagon this morning, causing what we had just seen, a gaping hole in the E-ring of the Pentagon. Evacuations. We have seen transports burn victims. We do not know about any casualties. We don't know if everyone was evacuated from the Pentagon before that collapse. We are watching, as you just heard Dave Staddard say, they are evacuating and moving back all of the news crews, getting people as far away from that building as possible because they thought they spotted another plane in the area. We do not have any confirmation on that, but we will keep you updated.
The Federal Aviation Administration has shut down all air traffic nationwide. This following the aircraft that crashed into the Pentagon. Two planes crashed into the World Trade Center up in New York City.
President Bush said today we have a national tragedy upon learning of the two planes crashing into the World Trade Center. He said he would be returning immediately to Washington, and the president has ordered a full-scale investigation to hunt down the folks, quote, who committed this act. And again, what you're looking at, within an hour of the Twin Towers explosion, an aircraft crashed at the Pentagon as well. The White House and other major government buildings, Treasury Department, Defense, have all been evacuated, and airplane traffic in and out all around the United States is closed down.
Let's go back to Lauren Ashburn, who's in the USA Today building in Roslyn. Lauren?
Yes, good morning, Buck and Andrea. I am taking a look right now at the Pentagon. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 helicopters I can see from the vista here in the USA Today Tower 1 building that overlooks
all of Washington from Arlington, Virginia. I can see one helicopter is on its way, it looks like to me, to the Washington Hospital Center. It's attempting a landing right now. I'm sure there are 2 others following in that direction at this point. I'm looking down at traffic. Traffic is at a standstill leaving the city. There are hardly any cars going into the city via Route 50. Traffic is backed up over the Memorial Bridge. And I'm looking down at police officers who are telling people to get off and turn around as they're coming in off of 395.
Yes, Lauren, we had heard that the Beltway near 395, which is that Pentagon exit, is closed down. So if you're leaving the home or going in that direction, don't. Go the other way. Just stay put. Stay home.
Now, Andrea.
Yes, Lauren.
I can see the sky. I know you had talked about possibly another plane from somewhere coming. I have a vista almost 180 degrees here across the horizon, and I can see not one single solitary plane.
Good.
The only thing I can see are those helicopters I talked to you about. The one helicopter has landed, it looks like to me, at Washington Hospital Center.
All right.
We have on the phone now Daryl Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, you're an airline security expert with what organization?
Washington University Aviation Institute.
All right, sir. You've seen what's happened this morning. Give me your read.
Well, our lives will never be the same again. This will change everything we do in this city and everywhere else around here. This is the day that we will all remember until we die now. I can't even imagine anything more worse than what's going on right now. The terror is just unspeakable.
Basically what we probably have, Mr. Jenkins, is what, 3 hijackings and then the terrorists plowing to the World Trade Center and the Pentagon?
That's correct. Just the enormity that somebody would do something this awful to innocent people, there's no cause that can justify this. Everything about aviation will change, and even the Pentagon was under attack, and there's smoke coming from this. So whatever airports have been in the past in terms of nightmarish getting through, the nightmare is only beginning because travel will become unspeakably difficult now.
What happened to airport security, sir?
I have no idea how any of this happened. We have no details at this time. I'm sure, though, that all resources will be brought to bear on this. In the future, getting through any airport will be very, very difficult. It will not be pleasant ever again.
I think you said it best, though, at the beginning. Our lives will never be the same. Everything will change after this.
Everything will change everywhere in this city and in just about everything that I do in commercial aviation.
Mr. Jenkins, you know, I can remember years back. It was D.C. Police Chief Maurice Cullinane, Jerry Wilson, Isaac Fullwood. They all said someday terrorism is going to come to the United States.
Well,
I think today it did.
Today it did, and like we said earlier, our lives will never be the same. I assume right now our nation's under attack and we're at war with some foreign body.
All right, Daryl, thank you very much.
Daryl, thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of how everything is going to change, especially at major airports around the world, Gary Reels is at National Airport by phone. Gary, what's going on there?
Well, Andrea, it is, I hate to use the cliche, but it is truly a scene out of a movie here. The dark, acrid smoke wafting over from the Pentagon has shrouded the terminal area here at National Airport lightly, not a dense fog here at the airport, but a light fog nonetheless. And we've been here at the airport proper now for about 20 to 25 minutes. There is still a constant stream of people evacuating the entire airport. Of course, course, as you've been reporting, airport operations around the United States have been shut down very abruptly, and National Airport is certainly in the thick of that. There are still at this hour hundreds and hundreds of people evacuating, just streaming by foot. By foot, everybody's walking. There's a heavy security presence here, needless to say. And, of course, the people who are here and are leaving here can see very clearly the cause of this, and that is the plane crash into the Pentagon and the smoke. They're getting a first-hand taste of it.
All right, Gary, thank you. Gary
Hold
Reels
on
reporting.
One second. The State Department has just been evacuated. After a possible explosion or a fire, a senior government official speaking on the condition of anonymity said the incident appears connected with the two plane attacks at the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. According to this source, quoting now, something has happened at the State Department. We don't know what yet. We hear it might have been a plane. This, anybody, Frank or Rick, Lauren, can anybody see anything over at the State Department?
Statter?
Yeah, I'm here.
You hear anything about the State Department?
No, I know there was concern here. Let me describe what happened when we had to rush off a little while ago.
Yes.
There was concern, and we don't like to put rumors on the air, and I'm not sure that you can call this a rumor, but FBI on the scene at the Pentagon told everybody to leave the area because there was concern of a hijacked plane that might be coming in this direction.
Hold on.
We know.
Hey, Dave?
Yes.
We just got this bulletin from the Associated Press. A car bomb explodes outside the State Department. Being attributed to senior law enforcement officials. Again, a car bomb has just exploded.
Let's go to Frank Herzog, who is outside the State Department. Frank, what have you seen?
All right, we'll hold on for Frank.
Frank had been down at the area of the Washington
Let me
Monument.
just tell you, I mean, if you're just waking up, this is not a dream. This is not some B movie you're watching.
And this is not a Tom Clancy scenario. This is the real thing.
This morning, about 8:45, a plane crashed into the World Trade Center in New York. 18 minutes later, another plane, apparently a hijacked jet, out of Boston, bound for L.A., crashed into the world. You see the picture right there. That's the second explosion when this American Airlines jet, apparently hijacked, plowed into the World Trade Center. Then about an hour ago, there was an explosion at the Pentagon. A plane plowed into the Pentagon near the heliport.
Look at this.
Oh.
And one of the towers we had reported that one had collapsed here is proof that...
Frank Herzog, where are you?
I'm still at the Washington Monument. I'm looking at the State Department.
Yes. What do you see?
Nothing has happened there now. It looks all quiet, but I am getting reports from Park Police that another plane was hijacked out of Pittsburgh. That's the word they're getting. Another plane was hijacked out of Pittsburgh, which may explain why those two fighter jets were scrambled out of here about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah,
but so far, the State Department is quiet. There's no indication of anything going on in the building. All we hear is just the constant wail of sirens here in downtown Washington.
Again, to confirm what Dave Statter told us just a few minutes ago, Pentagon officials are evacuating people from the area of the Pentagon, fearing another plane could be en route. Frank Herzog has been told by a U.S. Park police officer there's been another hijacking, this plane out of Pittsburgh. Apparently, we got they're scrambling out of Andrews Air Force Base.
Other major government institutions, including Treasury and the State Department, were being evacuated even before we heard about something possibly being directed specifically at the State Department after the explosion at the Pentagon. Again, we are looking at two pictures. The one on the left of your screen is the Pentagon, where a section of that building has collapsed, struck by an aircraft. This is New York City, where one of the Twin Towers collapsed after it was struck by aircraft, one of the 110-story towers.
Emilio Villano, he's a terrorism expert over at American University. Sir, are you with us here? Emilio? I think we lost him. The phones in this area, everybody's on a cell phone.
Trying to get
out.
This was live of the second tower. We believe the second tower of the World Trade Center just collapsed. That's what you were looking at live. You can't see very well through the smoke, but it is obvious that those two large structures that we saw just a little while ago aren't there. We're going to pick up live coverage from our sister station in New York, WCBS. Let's listen to
now
what they're
reduced
saying.
to a pile of rubble and ash, smoke billowing above the city. Jim Smith, stay with us if you will. What is the evaluation and what else you're able to see from your vantage point?
Well, Michael, we have seen the entire lower half of Manhattan just completely covered in smoke, debris, dust. Everything well south of Canal Street is just completely and covered in this smoke and dust at this time. There is not anything recognizable of what were the two trade towers, nothing standing out from those clouds of dust at this time.
My goodness.
We understand the schools in the area reporting that the children were there. At last report, the children were safe. They're saying that the parents, if you can get there, and in this, frankly, it'd be quite difficult. The schools are under a lockdown. The children are not allowed to leave unless the parents come to get them. But we have heard word that the children are okay. The casualties here are far, we don't even want to speculate.
No,
we do
we
have
can't.
reporters at St. Vincent's, at Bellevue, throughout the city, crews throughout the city. We know that you're worried about your loved ones down there. This is the financial district of the world, and clearly untold number of people that are down there right now. And this is as close as we can get to the scene. Jim Smith, you're about, what, 5 miles?
Yeah, that's right, Michael. We're about 5 to 6 miles away. We've been forced to move to Staten Island at this point to bring you these pictures. And we understand to go along with the airport shutting down and no airplanes being allowed to take off nationwide, we have been in contact with military aircraft in the area that are enforcing a complete no-fly zone. Once we land, we will not be allowed to take back off. So as aircraft are removed from the area, none will be allowed back in.
That's understandable. Langley Air Force Base, all the Air Force bases you would imagine are on high alert. Possibly, I don't know if anybody's, we're not hearing that. We're trying to get the beat on whether the military and to what aspect the military has been and is taking action about this. Again, not a confirmation per se, but it's hard to imagine that this is anything but a terrorist attack. We're getting some information here.
Just the timeline of the events, but let's stay with what you're looking at, if we could, as a live picture of what is left of the Manhattan skyline. Jim, I want to bring you back in because we have reports that there are United States fighter jets cruising the area over New Jersey. Can you confirm that?
Yes, we can. Our pilot has been in contact with some F-16 fighters that have been in the area. We do not know exactly.
All right, welcome back to Eyewitness News. We want to report Mark Brady of Prince George's County Fire and EMS telling all duty personnel to report to their duty stations immediately, regardless of their schedule. They want all Prince George's Fire and EMS personnel to report to their duty stations.
One of our photojournalists, Denny Bly, has just called in. He says there's at least 15 people injured at the Pentagon.
We saw the tower. Both towers now collapsed at World Trade Center, and from American Airlines, they are saying the plane that crashed into the World Trade Center was one of theirs. It was Flight 11 from Boston to Los Angeles. That was American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to Los Angeles was the plane that crashed into the World Trade Center. This AP advisory is from American Airlines.
Anthony Garrett was inside the Pentagon when the plane slammed into the area near the heliport, the E-ring. Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
You okay?
I'm fine, yes, thank you.
Tell me what you heard, what you saw.
Well, excuse me, I was over there just meeting with some of my customers. I'm a defense contractor, and we were standing around watching the CNN report on the World Trade Center incident. Yeah. When we felt a jolt, something along the lines I would suspect of like a minor tremor, and then a strong gust of air went through the hallways. Immediately after that, someone in the hallway started yelling, "Get out of the building now!"
Panic inside there?
Excuse me?
Was there panic inside there?
Yeah, it got fairly chaotic quickly as everyone was trying to run down the narrow corridors there on the D ring to get to an exit.
You believe this, Mr. Garrett?
It's certainly of great concern, I guess.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly, I guess.
You were talking about panic. We want to go to Bruce LeShan. He's on the phone, and there's panic, as you can imagine, downtown. Bruce, can you hear us?
Yes, Andrea. I would describe it as kind of quiet chaos here. Many of the buildings have been evacuated in downtown, and there are thousands of people out on the street trying to figure out how to get home. There are long lines next to the parking garages as people try and get their cars and get out of downtown. Around the executive mansion, people evacuated from the White House grounds, and they're setting up a rather wide perimeter around there, at least down as far as 15th Street on one side there. The uniformed Secret Service officers have been putting out yellow tape and refusing to let anybody get near the White House Treasury Department complex in that area. And a lot of people who were working on the White House grounds in the surrounding office buildings kind of walking around with shocked looks on their faces. A lot of rumors flying around here. So far, no specific incidents downtown, but many emergency crews running around and heading in various directions, trying to deal with anything that might crop up. I actually saw 2 paramedic units from Walter Reed Hospital coming all the way down here downtown to kind of station themselves and prepare for whatever might happen. Advice for people who are watching and might have business downtown, don't. Yeah. Do not come down here. It is absolute gridlock down here, and they're doing their best to keep everybody out and the streets cleared, and it is a very difficult proposition.
Bruce LeShan, thank you. Please stay in touch. We're getting word, too. CNN is reporting that, as we told you, Capitol Hill, the Capitol has been evacuated. Now CNN is reporting that members of Congress have been taken to a secure location. Members of Congress being taken to a secure location for their protection.
This is unbelievable.
The United States basically has been attacked. The U.S. has been attacked by terrorists this morning.
Wall Street is shut down. The nearby World Financial Center, which houses NYMEX, was evacuated. The American Stock Exchange, the New York Mercantile Exchange, the Chicago Board of Trade has suspended all trading today. Business and trading in other parts of the country have been affected by this. Around the country and around the world, the investment community is on hold.
Dave Statter is at the Pentagon. Dave, can you hear me?
I hear you, Mike. The fire continues to burn out of control at the Pentagon. It looked like they were making some headway. We don't know if they had to pull back because of the threat that came in here, but right now there's still a great deal of fire inside the Pentagon at the moment. Firefighting operations may have ceased for a little bit because of the threat. The threat, again, which you've been talking about, is that there's some other plane that may have been hijacked. FBI agents on the scene here moved everybody they could away from the Pentagon, including us. There was a brief bit of panic as people ran, and they forced us out of the area. We're now a little bit further away, looking at the west side of the Pentagon near the heliport, the E-ring, where they say a lot of senior officials' offices are. It continues to burn. I guess about 20, 30 minutes, sort of lost track of time. That whole middle section collapsed. That wasn't from the initial explosion, apparently from the great amount of fire there and the damage done when the plane hit. Still have conflicting reports over what size plane hit. We heard one eyewitness tell us that it was a small plane that he seemed to see as he was coming across the 14th Street Bridge. Believe it or not, somebody else said they saw something as big as a 757. We just don't have the confirmation for you yet. Number of injured, medevac taken by helicopter from the area. They seem to be suffering very serious burns. Again, the fire burns out of control, continues to burn on the west side of the Pentagon here.
Dave, from your vantage point from where you are, you can't see any portion of the plane. Is that correct?
There was debris all over the place. In fact, I looked down. Mike Trammell, photographer, and Heather Cabot, a reporter here, said look down, and there was a small piece of what apparently
Hold
was
on,
a plane.
Dave.
Sure.
Hold on just a second. We got a bulletin from AP. A large plane has just crashed in western Pennsylvania. Again, the Associated Press is reporting a large plane has just crashed in western Pennsylvania. That's according to officials at the Somerset County Airport. That's near Pittsburgh. Again, we had a report of another plane, a hijacking near Pittsburgh. Now we're getting a report of a large plane crash in western Pennsylvania, Somerset County.
We have someone on the phone. I couldn't get the name. Tell me who you are, please. Dr. Gerald Post is joining us by phone. Dr. Post, your reactions?
Well, the coordinated nature of this attack makes it clear we're not just talking about an isolated group, and I'm sure the dominant suspicion, although no responsibility has been claimed, will be with the Al-Qaeda network of Osama bin Laden. It's really. When I turned on television, I must say I thought it was some sort of fantasy movie.
Right.
First.
Dr. Post, we have this quote from Chris Yates, an aviation expert at Jane's Transport in London. He's quoted as saying, "It takes a logistics operation from the terror group involved that is second to none." And you would would agree with that.
That's absolutely correct, and that makes it clear we're talking about a major organization with highly sophisticated operatives. And
Doctor, where's our intelligence?
Yeah, how do we protect ourselves against this?
that's one of the terrible things about terrorism and how difficult it is to protect about the unknown, unseen adversary.
Do we do anything as a terrorist expert? What should be our response? Since so far, no group has claimed responsibility. What should we be doing now?
Well, the first effort, obviously, apart from responding to this multiple site attack, is to identify who is responsible. Having said that, as we saw with the embassy bombings, in fact, I was recently involved in the trial in
Dr.
federal
Post,
court.
let me interrupt you for a second. Again, our viewers, if you're just tuning in, you're looking at the smoke at the harbor in New York resulting from the collapse of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. We're still getting another report from AP as well that senior law enforcement officials say a car bomb has exploded outside the State Department. It was already among buildings in the nation's capital evacuated earlier due to the attacks. The official says, quote, something has happened at the State Department. We hear it might have been a plane, then we're hearing car bombs. We don't know. Again, this could just be fear and rumor, but this is coming from quoted a senior law enforcement official saying something has happened outside the State Department. If any of our reporters are able to clue us in on that. Mike?
CBS is reporting that there's been another hijacking. A 737 unknown what airline has been hijacked. CBS is reporting that plane is now circling Dulles International Airport. Again, CBS reporting another hijacking. 737 passenger jet has been hijacked. The report is it's now circling in the area of Dulles International Airport.
Here's a quote from a service station employee. What the hell is going on in the country now? That's the reaction after seeing from his vantage point the crash and the smoke at the Pentagon.
Again, the initial report we got from our colleague Denny Bly is that 15 people have been hurt. Somewhere buried in that rubble is a jet. There have been conflicting reports whether it's a large commercial jet or a private jet.
They said witnesses say Pentagon employees are walking down Columbia Pike to get away from the scene. There are long lines forming at payphones as people try to make contact with friends and family to let them know they're all right.
Cell phones won't work.
Cell phones won't work.
Hold on, there is apparently a mass exodus from downtown D.C., creating incredible gridlock as office workers try to get home. The district government has ordered all workers out of all of its buildings. All of the area is shutting down. Back to Dave Statter. Dave?
Yeah, I'm here, Mike. We just had a military jet fly over here, very low. We can tell you from the people we've been talking to coming from the Pentagon, they'd have a very little in the way of information, and there's a lot, as you talk about rumors, that have been circulating through here about another possible attack, and certainly the hijacked planes you've talked about that seem to be confirmed. So that is causing a great deal of concern here. There's still a lot of Pentagon employees just standing outside, looking in, basically with their mouths wide open, trying to comprehend this. We see some what may be high officials at times, racing by us, heading toward the Pentagon. The fire continues to burn out of control, and I have to tell you, there are fires that have happened in the Pentagon before, certainly not from terrorist attacks, and it's a very difficult situation to fight a fire in the Pentagon. Again, the world's largest office building, I think it's been called in the past, and there's so many nooks and crannies that fire can get into, and I'm sure that's a big problem here. And as you saw earlier and can see now, there's a gaping hole in the west side of the Pentagon where a great deal of fire continues to burn here at the E-ring, the west side, near the heliport of the Pentagon. But the biggest problem here is solid information And as you can imagine, the line of communications are down. You talked about the cell phones, almost impossible to use. Anybody out there is waiting for a call from a loved one and you know they have a cell phone, they're probably not going to get through. There's cellular gridlock at the moment. Do we have an eyewitness here? We have an eyewitness, I think, to what happened here at the Pentagon. If you have a moment, Heather Cavitt's bringing that person over here. Can you tell me what you saw and where you were?
Well, we were on Columbia Pike where the shelter is, and all of a sudden you can hear the noise coming first, and then you can feel the shaking of the building. And we just looked up out of the window, and I saw the tail end go.
What size plane?
It was for me, it looked like a big size plane. It was definitely a passenger plane. And everything shook, and then all of a sudden you just heard this big explosion, and somebody said, my God, they hit the Pentagon, they hit the Pentagon. And I didn't know that they had hit the World Trade Centers this morning. And then, you know...
We've seen a couple injured who've been taken out. Have you seen any
I've seen people, yeah. I've seen a few injuries. And they lined up stretchers or those things they use, you know, for the bodies. And a whole slew of people just went in line, military people, heading that way. So I take it that it was a lot of injuries.
What's your name?
Mark Eason.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
So there you hear it, another person who witnessed the attack earlier this morning here at the Pentagon when the plane crashed into the west side of the Pentagon. All the area roads leading to the Pentagon, of course, are shut down. Arlington police came in a few minutes ago, chasing many of the bystanders away, telling them to get out of here, much as the FBI did, because they're concerned about a possible another attack happening. Mike and Andrea.
All right, Dave, we're just getting across the wire, too. D.C. Fire is assisting Arlington battle the fire at the Pentagon. D.C. Fire and EMS personnel are to report to their duty stations at once. The same for Prince George's Fire and EMS. All duty personnel should report to their duty stations regardless of their schedule, all in an effort to help what's happening in Arlington, Virginia, and give those folks a hand as well. As we've been reporting, this is the most audacious terrorist attack that's ever taken place in the world, says an aviation expert at Jane's Transport in London. It takes a logistics operation from the terror group involved that is second to none. Only a small handful of terror groups is on that list. The name at the top of the list, Osama bin Laden, but so far no nation has claimed responsibility for the horror that is happening across our country.
Let me tell you, we're getting a lot of phone calls. Let me, before we give you a recap on what's happened this morning, this is from D.C. schools. Schools will remain open and close at the scheduled time. Students should be kept indoors for the remainder of the day. We believe students are safer at school than elsewhere. Students may, of course, be released to their parents. This comes from the Office of Community Relations. All evening activities canceled. Well, we don't need to go into that. Elementary students currently at Wolf Trap are being transported back to their base school. School principals are empowered to make individual decisions in the best interest of their students and staff. All right, let's take a look back at what began about 8:45 this morning.
First off, at 8:45, we had a plane crash into the World Trade Center. This plane crash, American Airlines is telling us this second one that you see, the fireball, was Flight 11, Boston to Los Angeles. It was a D.C.-based American Airlines crew aboard that plane.
Now you're going to see the first well, hold on a second here.
Now you're going to see
look at this.
One of the towers to collapse. This is the World Trade Center, 110-story tower. And then shortly after that, the second tower just collapsing into a pile of rubble.
Here's the AP lead out of New York. In a horrific sequence of destruction, terrorists crashed two planes into the World Trade Center, and the twin 110-story towers collapsed this morning. Explosions also rocked the Pentagon, and there was a car bomb at the State Department. Let's go to Frank Herzog. Frank?
Buck, I'm down at the Washington Monument Grounds. The park police here are in the process of just evacuating the entire area. Dave Statter mentioned a few minutes ago another military aircraft that was scrambled out of Andrews. We saw it bear off towards the southwest, possibly in response to the reports that you've got of the aircraft over Dulles. I can now confirm that the White House, about a half an hour ago, vehicles pulled up in the south entrance of the White House, apparently moving some key personnel out. and we've been able to spot on the White House roof Special Operations Forces personnel of the Secret Service, 3 of them. They're equipped with binoculars and a super long telescopic lens to be able to spot any incoming aircraft. And as you know, they are also equipped with handheld surface-to-air missiles to take an aircraft down. So they are up patrolling the top of the White House. In fact, Rick Armstrong, the photographer here, said just a few minutes ago they were checking him out through that long lens. Park Police have shut down all the monuments, all of the museums downtown. They're telling all the visitors, all the people who are here, to just go on home. They're hoping to get most of this traffic out of Washington as quickly as it can. But again, for the last 45 minutes, all we've heard here is the wail of sirens and, of course, seeing the sight of that smoke billowing up from the Pentagon. Mike?
All right, Frank, thank you. Trying to get people out of the downtown area. We just want to let you know Metro is still open, but Metro is on high alert. They say no threats have been confirmed. Also, all Alexandria Fire Department personnel are to report to their duty stations at once. And again, D.C. Fire and Emergency Medical Services people, as well as Prince George's Fire and Emergency Medical Service people, to report to their duty stations at once, regardless of their schedules.
Virginia Medical Center, where many of the people injured in the Pentagon crash explosion have been taken. The last word we had was from our photojournalist Denny Bly, who said there were at least 15 people hurt. This is the scene at the Virginia Hospital Center.
We just want to let you know the Social Security Administration offices in Baltimore says all offices, Social Security Administration offices in New York and Washington have been closed. Let's go to Lauren Ashburn from her site at the Gannett Towers. What do you see, Lauren? What do you hear?
Well, good morning, Andrea. Right now with me is Joel Zuckerman. He was on his way into work, I believe, when he saw an American Airlines jet crash into the Pentagon. Joel, tell me what you saw.
Well, traffic was very heavy this morning, so it was bumper to bumper. We were all stopped. I was probably about 100 yards from the Pentagon when I heard this screaming sonic boom and saw the jet come screaming across the highway. It was an American Airlines jet, silver with the markings along the windows, and within seconds it hit the side of the Pentagon. My first thought was, my God, it's coming in so low for landing at National, but it screamed across Route 110, hit the west side of the Pentagon. Immediately there were flames that shot up, higher flames, white smoke, and then within seconds...
We're interrupting Lauren Ashburn's broadcast to go to Gordon Peterson live near the Pentagon. Gordon?
Gordon's actually with me. It's Dave Statter. We're going to come to Gordon in a second. Gordon has an eyewitness, but first we have Lieutenant Colonel Art Hobode, who's Air Force Public Affairs, the first official word we've gotten from anyone. Colonel, can you tell us what you know?
All we know at this point in time was that there was an explosion. Eyewitnesses have told us that it was some type of aircraft that struck the building. At this point, the key that we want to keep people away from the building as far back as possible. And if people have loved ones in the building, please let the fire and rescue people do their work. We want to stay away from the building as much as we can, because all we're doing right now is inhibiting the fire and rescue folks by people trying to come to the building and find out about their loved ones.
Are there people in that building dead?
I do not know.
Number of injured?
Have no idea at this point.
Size of plane?
According to the eyewitness, he said that it looked like a corporate jet, but I have no official word on that at this point.
That's the E-ring of the Pentagon, senior officials there?
There are senior officials on the E-ring of the Pentagon. I don't know in that particular location whether or not there were any or not.
Anything else you can describe for us to the public? What is on we're seeing that's burned and collapsed? What goes on in that area?
No, it's obviously it's an administrative area, just like the Pentagon is. And I don't have any details on that particular portion.
Okay, that's Lieutenant Colonel Art Hobode, Air Force Public Affairs. Gordon Peterson is here also. I'll let Gordon talk to you now.
Okay, gents, will you come over here so we can see you? I need a mic, Bruce. Okay. This is Omar Campos and his friend Adil Raji. Omar doesn't speak English, so Adil's going to translate for us. Omar, you were an eyewitness, yes?
Yeah.
What did you see?
¿Cuál te lo viste? Oh, bueno, lo que yo vi, o sea que yo estaba trabajando en el edificio que tenemos aquí al costado. He was working right here outside of the building. You know, to the building right there. Yo estaba trabajando hacia afuera. He was working outside. to the twist out, to a little twists out, you know.
They take like the trash and stuff like this.
We're going to break into Gordon Peterson's report there from the Pentagon along with Dave Statter. Just want to let you know, Federal Protective Services now says there was no car bomb at the State Department. No car bomb at the State Department, but that building had already been under an evacuation alert following credible threats made to the White House.
And we also have confirmation now that a large plane, apparently a jet, has crashed in western Pennsylvania. This crash, of course, comes just hours after terrorists crashed 2 planes into the World Trade Center in New York City. The twin 110-story towers have collapsed. Explosions also rocked the Pentagon. As Andrea just told you, there was no car bomb at the State Department.
The Kennedy Center is closed this evening. All activities at the Kennedy Center closed. There was going to be Kennedy family members there for the unveiling of a new exhibit in tribute to the late president, but nothing will be going on at the Kennedy Center this evening due to the urgent.
Let's go back to Gordon Peterson at the Pentagon.
Gordon, you're back up.
Gordon?
Okay, Andrea, we're back talking to Omar Campos, and his friend Adil Raji is translating for him. Now, Omar, you say this was a smaller plane, 10 to 15 passengers maybe?
No es muy grande. No es muy grande.
It's not like too big, it's just...
tú sabes los aviones comerciales.
It's like business airplane.
Like a business jet, yeah. And it was a jet.
Yeah, it's like a business aeroplane.
Ajá.
Yeah.
And what did you see the aircraft do?
Pero ¿cuál tú lo viste exacto?
Oh, bueno, yo lo vi que me pasó así por encima y tú sabes que venía muy bajo y movía hasta los árboles según venía debajo.
It's come very fast down, it moves, then it goes straight to the buildings.
And big explosion.
Yeah, it's like...
it's
muy
big.
grande. Pero ¿sabe qué colores?
Lo alcancé a ver que era como blanco por bajo y como así alrededor como celeste.
What color was it?
It's like white in the top, it's like blue color downstairs.
White on the top and blue on the color.
It's not like
blue on the
blue, like white blue. Como los aeroplanes de aquí, de América.
American
como así.
Algo así como los de la United, you know.
He said like a United States airplane.
And Gordon, you know, there's one thing we've heard from some conflicting information. They're saying like a large business type airplane. Others have said it's been as large as a 767.
Right.
There are conflicting reports we should tell people, including some military people who seem to have witnessed or getting information that it may be that large.
Right.
Okay.
Are you an eyewitness as well?
Well, we only seen the back part as it was going over our building. And
what's your name?
Mark Eason.
And what did you see, Mark?
Just the plane. We were upstairs and from the window, and we heard the rumbling first, and then the plane just flew over top of us. It was so low that everything just...
Where were you?
On Columbia Pike. And it scared the mess out of us. And all of a sudden, when it went past, you know, I ran downstairs, and they just said, you know, it was a big explosion. They said, oh, my God, it hit the Pentagon. It hit the Pentagon.
Now, I know you just caught a glimpse.
All right, we're going to break away for just a second. We've got Adrian Bailey on the phone with the Arlington County School System. Adrian?
Yes.
Could you tell us what's going to be the situation? We're getting a lot of calls from parents.
Anxious parents.
Yes, we've been getting a lot of calls from concerned parents, rightly so. What we've decided to do is to keep the children in the building rather than evacuating. We feel that they're safer there, and if concerned parents would like to come by and pick their children up, they're more than welcome to do that, but they will remain in the buildings today.
All right. Regular closing time?
Regular closing time is different for various schools. It can be anywhere from 2:20 to 3:10.
But you're going to stick to that schedule, is what you're saying?
Yes, we are.
Adrian, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to Frank Herzog, who is near the Washington Monument. Frank?
We're seeing what looks like a medevac helicopter going up the Potomac River right now from the Pentagon area. The smoke continues to billow there, and we can confirm that no signs of any smoke or anything around the State Department. So I think that was a bogus report. I can tell you that the security is still very heightened on top of the White House. The security people up there are looking out to the west. We have got unconfirmed reports of another plane out there. They say about 4 miles out, but we have not been able to confirm that at all.
All right.
As you can imagine, the way things are going right now, we're going to have reports left and right of things that are going to be true and untrue.
And Frank, we just want to underscore what you said. We heard from federal officials there was no car bomb at the State Department. Right. Nothing at the State Department. Thank you, Frank.
We do see jet fighters overhead. I just see one going off to the south now. Mm-hmm. So they are patrolling this area very heavily. There are at least 3 or 4 jet fighters in the air over Washington right now.
I mean, it, just unbelievable. Sorry. Let me just tell you, at the World Trade Center...
Is no more.
Yeah, the World Trade Center is gone.
It's gone. That's what you're looking at on the right-hand side of your screen. Don't try to call anybody in New York. I tried to call my daughter to find out where she was because they've closed down some subway traffic, and as you can imagine, an anxious parent wanting to make sure, but you can't get through. Don't try. People have work to do there, and
an aviation expert says this is perhaps the most audacious terrorist attack that's ever taken place in the world.
They suspect that there are only few terrorist groups that could have put together something like this. At the top of the list, of course, is the name of Osama bin Laden, but so far, no one, no group, no nation has claimed responsibility for the horror that's been wreaked on the United States this morning.
You want to recap here, Andrea? Let's just pick it up. Started, what, about 8:45 this morning?